I will be talking about international trade and investment. Some learning objectives for Chapter 2 are to understand the extent of international trade and foreign direct investment. With 25% of all goods being exported, international trade is a huge factor for international business. Trade directions generally change over time. General trends show that most goods from developing and developed economies are going to developed countries. Trade increases significantly in areas with expanded regional trade agreements, such as the European Union, which makes trade between these countries encouraged. International trade theory. The mercantile era is a consideration that exporting goods is beneficial for a country in creating jobs and cash inflow, and importing is negative because it benefits other nations. Contemporary explanations for the direction of trade is different in resources allocations. Overlapping demand, which is a theory that deduces international trade in manufactured goods, will be greater between nations with similar levels of per capita income, and national competitive advantages, which involve a nation's ability to design, produce, distribute, or service products within an international trading context while earning increasing returns on its resources. Foreign direct investment, or FDI, had a book value of $16.2 trillion at the end of 2008. Direct investment is any time investors participate in the management of a firm. This increase can be due to monopolistic advantages to industries who have an advantage against local firms, firms who have superior knowledge but obtain a higher price by selling it on the open market, and by dynamic capabilities, which maintains that a firm only invests overseas if it meets specific requirements.
Expropriation is the transfer of ownership of property to the government. Some reasons a government may choose to own a business are to both increase and gain on the profits made by the firm and to preserve jobs. Privatization is the transferring of ownership from a public sector to a private sector. It is also the transferring of management of state activities through contracts and leases and the contracting out of activities previously carried out by the state. Although there are several debates over who owns what business or issues concerning the government taking away certain possessions, everything actually belongs to God. He is the creator of all, and we must always remember that God is the true owner of everything we have, including our businesses. Terrorism is defined as unlawful acts of violence committed for ransom as well as to overthrow government, to gain vengeance for real or imagined wrongs, and other reasons. There are between 8,000 and 10,000 kidnapping for ransoms each year, resulting in a gain of $500 million for the kidnappers. There is insurance available that covers the ransom payments, anti-terrorist schools, and companies to handle negotiations with kidnappers. It is called KRE, which stands for Kidnap, Ransom, and Extortion. A government experiences stability when it maintains its power and has predictable fiscal, monetary, and political policies. A government encounters instability when it cannot maintain its power and it makes unpredictable or radical policy changes. Businesses prosper much more under a stable government. International business plays a powerful role in the political sector since 100 of the world's biggest economic units are firms. International companies repeatedly make decisions about where to invest, where to conduct research and development, and where to manufacture products. They can gain strong negotiating positions through their size, possession of capital, technology and management skills, and their capability of sending out resources to the rest of the world. Country risk assessment is an evaluation of a country's economic situation, policies, and its politics. This is done in order to determine how much risk exists of losing an investment. The country risks listed on the slide can either be economic or financial. For example, a country may have high inflation rates or questionable labor conditions. Various company departments perform CRAs. Two of the outside consulting and publishing firms for CRAs are Control Risks Information Service and Euromoney. Some of the arguments for trade restrictions are listed on the slide. However, they are not completely sound arguments. For example, sanctions that are imposed to punish offending nations do not always meet their purpose and can actually cause economic damage to the nations that apply them. Retaliation occurs as a result of dumping and subsidies. Dumping is the selling of a product abroad for less than the average cost of production or market price in the exporting nation, or for less than the price to third countries. Types of dumping include predatory, social, environmental, financial services, and tax dumping. Subsidies are financial contributions to a domestic firm made by the government in order to protect the firm from imports. Two types of trade restrictions are tariffs and non-tariff barriers. Tariffs are taxes levied on imported goods so that the selling price is higher than that of domestically produced goods. A variable levy, however, guarantees that the price of the imported goods will not exceed the price of the domestically produced goods. Non-tariff barriers are all forms of discrimination against imports other than import duties.
Hello, fellow Lapeers. This is Kyle Jennings coming at you live with Chapter 7 on intellectual property and other legal forces. We'll be covering 6 different topics today: international legal forces, international dispute settlement, intellectual property, standardizing laws around the world, national legal forces, U.S. laws on international business. We'll also take a look at some key concepts and theories that apply to these, and look at a faith-based aspect involved in these different theories. Let's begin by talking about international legal forces. One legal force is the rule of law. This is understanding the legal system of a country and how it affects your business ventures before you go. The book gives an excellent example of this, of a business looking to locate in China and choosing between Hong Kong and Shanghai. The business owner would more than likely choose Hong Kong because of its British colonial days and the law tradition that it adapted over Shanghai's Chinese litigation. Next, we can look at different sources of international law. This consists of treaties, which is an agreement between countries. We have 2 different kinds of treaties, consisting of bilateral treaties involving only 2 countries, or multilateral treaties involving more than 2 countries. Next, we have customary international laws, which are international rules derived from customs or usage over the centuries. This could be like trying to import fruit from a different country, and then you get stopped in customs because that can be illegal. Finally, let's take a look at extraterritoriality. Extraterritoriality is an attempt to enforce laws outside of one nation's borders. So this could be applicable in a scenario of the U.S. imposing taxes on one who might receive their income from outside of the U.S. borders. Let's go ahead and move on to the international dispute settlement. Oftentimes in dispute settlement, litigation takes place, which is the process of taking legal action. To help solidify the actions taken place in litigation, countries impose what is called choice of law clause or choice of forum clause. The choice of law clause, this specifies which country law will govern in the event of a dispute. Either laws from country A or country B will take place. Then a choice of forum clause, the specifications where the dispute will be settled, either country A or country B. Next, we see performance of contracts. Each country is of its own obligation to comply with the contract agreement. This is because there's no world-renowned governance over the entire world, but each country abides by their own laws. To help make international trade more fluent, the International Chamber of Commerce has developed universal trade terminology called Incoterms. Despite legal uncertainties, international business will continue to grow, so it is important to understand the differing laws between country to country. Next, let's move on to intellectual properties. Intellectual properties include patents, trademarks, trade names, copyrights, and trade secrets, all of which result from the exercise of someone's intellect. Patents, defined as government's grants, giving the inventor of a product or process the exclusive right to manufacture, exploit, use, and sell an invention or process. 173 countries support patents, and infringement upon these patents could lead to legal actions. Next, we have trademarks, which are designs and names officially registered that merchants use to differentiate their names. Trademarks can be a color, shape, or design. The duration of a trademark varies as well. This can be from several years to only a few years. Protection can also be done on a bilateral basis in friendship, commerce, and navigational treaties. Following along with trademarks, we have what's called a trade name. Trade names are the names of a business that are protected by all countries that adhere to the International Convention for the Protection of International Industrial Property. Finally, we have copyrights, which are exclusive legal rights of authors, composers, and people such as creators of software. Copyrights are protected under the Berne Convention of 1886, which is adhered by about 164 different countries. Let's move on to standardizing laws around the world. Many have attempted to have standardizing laws around the world, but unfortunately this has always failed. There would be excellent byproducts considering positive business advantages of workflow ease and communication with people. Countries attempt to make tax conversions as simple as possible so business is relatively easy, and there's been attempts for accounting and bankruptcy standards that are uniform worldwide. Let's take a look at some different national legal forces. These consist of competition laws, tariffs, quotas, and other trade obstacles, and torts. Competition laws, aka antitrust laws, are meant to prevent large clumps of economic power such as monopolies. Antitrust laws prevent price fixing, market sharing, and business monopolies. More than 80 countries have antitrust laws. Trade obstacles are legal forces, political forces, and financial forces. These can come in the shapes of tariffs, which are used to raise revenue for governments but also to keep goods out of a country, or quotas, which limit the amount of imports into a country of a specific good. Our final national legal force is torts, which is injuries influenced on other people intentional or negligent. Tort cases generally result in large sums of money depending on the country. There are two liabilities involved in torts: production and strict. Production liability holds a company's product liable for the harm done to a customer, while strict liability holds a designer and manufacturer liable. In conclusion, let's discuss U.S. laws that affect international business and moral justifications for bribery. The United States has implemented a law called the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which is used to eliminate business and corporate bribery. This is considered questionable or dubious payments, also considered corporate bribery. To avoid this act, certain businesses took part in what is called grease, which is the facilitating payments solely to expedite non-discretionary official actions. Businesses began to realize that being what is called above board is recognized internationally as business transparency. This is becoming increasingly popular because businesses realize that a solid reputation is more important than any corporate bribery they might give. In my opinion, corporate bribery is very immoral. Corporate bribery hurts the majority, can lead to lying, is motivated by selfish ambition, and puts aside what is best for the company as a whole. Learning business from a Christian perspective, I think it is essential that we put aside our own ambitions and look to see what can be most beneficial for others beside us. This means putting aside different gifts, cash or pay raises, and various incentives. Just like the teachings of Jesus, international business laws are set forth to create an environment that is fair and just for all.